Incoming transmission.
Hey everybody, this is Ed Pogue, My Figure Universe, for another episode of Boosting the Signal. And this week, my guest is Matt Jennings. Now, you may know Matt, you may know his face, and if you don't know his face, you're going to know his face after this. He is the writer, he is the star, he is the producer, he is the director of the 1701, a blurred story. And I think if you haven't checked that out, you will after this. Matt, how's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
Not too shabby. Now we were talking a little bit before we started this about models, so we're gonna go right
Yes.
into that because I want to get into the models. So you're thinking about starting up doing some starship modeling again, and what
Yeah.
project? What are you working on?
Okay, so I currently have I just started working again on my Reliant model kit. It is from, oh God, is it, no, it's not Polar Lights. Does Polar Lights have license now? It's round two.
Okay.
Round two has a smaller Reliant model kit, but it's in scale with I think they have like a 1/1000 scale,
Okay.
uh refit Enterprise, that it goes in scale with. But I also think it's also in scale with the Strange New Worlds Enterprise as well, which is also slightly bigger than the. Yeah, I mean I love scale. That's like I'm
I
obsessed with scale. I love it.
Scale is something that I had never given much consideration to until recently, talking with a couple of other model makers and talking about the scale that they would go with. And to me, it was
Yeah.
just like, give me the ship as long as it has the detail. Like I have an Enterprise E behind me that is kind of in the picture. You can kind of see it next to Moopsy over there,
Oh
still in
yeah,
the
I can see it.
box. And I need to get that. And I know it's bigger because I have an Enterprise D that's this big. And I'm like, well, that's not right, you know. So they're not to scale, but they're old. Like the D was from, let's see, here's the D. It's
Okay. I've seen that kit in
2012.
stores.
What's that?
I said I've seen that kit in stores. I think I just saw it when I went to Michael's. It was probably Michael's that I went to the other day.
This is yeah, this is some great content right here. But
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, but 2012, 2013, not bad, you know. So I
Yeah.
haven't done models since I was 14, so it's gonna be, fun. So, but anyway, aside from all that, um, I gotta say, the first time I ever saw you, like you had popped up, of course, on the Sci-Fi Sisters as a guest, and shout out to the Sci-Fi Sisters, love you all.
Yes. Hi, Auntie. Z.
And and of course, I've seen the footage from STLV, this past STLV, and you did the panel with Sean Ferrick. Shout out to Sean Ferrick.
Hi,
Um,
Sean.
and I started thinking, I gotta know more about you. I gotta know more. And then I found the 1701 story that you had done, the Blerd story, and I watched them. I've actually watched it a few times, and it's a wonderful story.
Thank
I
you.
have to tell you, your story is not is very it's very topical, it's very universal. I understanding that, like your story comes from a queer aspect, but yet I have to say it's very universal to even someone like myself who, you know, this- you know, it's the right word. I don't want to say ridicule, but like fear of, like you have a really poignant line in one, I think it's episode one, when you say people can show up, wearing their jerseys of their favorite football team, and
Yeah.
but why can't I wear, a Star Trek uniform?
Or uniform. Um, so I remember that line, a variation of that line I heard in, I want to say Trekkies,
Okay.
when I had watched Trekkies, the first Trekkies documentary years ago, and someone had said something like, "Yeah, you get people showing up all the time wearing their football jerseys. Why can't we just show up in we're showing up in our Starfleet uniforms?" And I had to be about 7 years old when I was watching that documentary, and that blew my mind because I think up until that point, I validated people picking on me for being nerdy and for liking Star Trek and the uniforms and having my action figures and all this stuff. And then I watched the Trekkies documentary and I heard that line and that changed my whole, thought process on fandom and fanaticism, your love of things and how it's okay to outwardly express that. Now, I still struggled for years after, but that was a turning point for me.
No, I get it. And it's a poignant line, and I haven't seen Trekkies since I was extremely young as well. It's one of those things I don't even own it, sadly. But yeah, I
The
know.
first one. I don't think I have the second one. I need to get the second one.
I see that one more often than I do the first one for some reason. But yeah, it was a great question. It was a great line within your story, and it hit me. And I love your character. I don't want to spoil the story. I love how you go about it with the personal ad that you're putting out and such, and the contemplation between your friend and yourself, and everything. I especially love your 3.5 coming back and doing the little extra piece at the end.
Yeah.
Wonderful. I fully, wholeheartedly, everyone should check that out. Worth every moment, and you can kick it out in like less than a half hour. I mean, come on.
Yeah, yeah. The 3.5 is really because I'm gearing up for season two. I just had a meeting with my friend Troy, who's produced web series in the past. And the first season that I did was all out of pocket, pretty
Okay.
much. I had some great I had a great team of people. Garrett Stodko, who did my cinematography. My friend Hector, who did sound last time. He's also the voice of Scotty as
Oh,
well.
okay.
He's an actor as well as a voiceover actor. You'll be able to actually see him in season two. He'll be playing a character in season two physically. Um, my friend Sammy, who plays my Dr. McCoy character. Uh, help me to get things into gear with the rest of season one, because the rest of season one was coming right out of the pandemic. And I think I was just feeling a little sluggish and feeling a little directionless at that point. But I got back to storyboarding and I would share my storyboards on Instagram. And so my friend Sammy reached out and he was like, "Hey, so when's it happening?" And that started turning the wheels. And I said to myself, "Oh, I guess I can still do this." So, um, so yeah, yeah, it's been a great process. It's been a beautiful process, and now with 3.5 is the transition into what season two will be about, which is about everything that's happening in the country right now, and it's about addressing the feeling of hopelessness and feeling helpless and also taking action. And I think I consider season two ultimately a call to action with everything that's happening. Um, and there's not just one way to protest.
Right.
Um, did I freeze?
Yeah, a little bit glitchy. You're fine. You're
Okay.
fine.
We're okay.
You're fine.
Um, I'm learning that there's not just one way to protest as well, and that art is a very effective way of protest and resistance. We can see that with what happened with Jimmy Kimmel. We can see that with even though Stephen Colbert was unfortunately canceled. Um, we can see the very fact that these people were taken off the air or under threat of being taken off the air shows the power and the weight that art has. Um, so that has been something that I've been keeping in mind as I continue to work on season two. And when you look at what happens with these characters, you'll see that without spoiling anything, I mean it's commonly known that there is strength in unity, but in season two, I think the how of it will be interesting.
I
The
look
how
forward
that
to it. I look
is.
forward to it. And this is a time, uh, not to be political towards anything, but we need to be political at this point in time because
Um,
if we don't express how we feel about life and the way things are going, then we are complicit in that.
exactly.
And
Exactly.
I like I don't usually post anything political on the My Figure Universe or the any of those Instagram pages, but I do have my private, or public. It's public, but my ePogue 6, I'm very political on there. It's like, look, and I'm very very far left. I mean, like I'm so far left, I'm through that wall, you know. But but yeah, it's and I don't want to stay quiet. This is conversations that I've had recently with my wife, with my son, his husband.
Yeah.
Like my son's husband is very political. He's very outspoken. He's very like do this, do this. My son sits back and listens, but I tell him all the time, you need to listen to your husband,
Mm,
because what he is saying is far too often people are being pushed around that shouldn't be, and our voices should
yeah.
not be silenced. So,
Yes. And the thing is that I think part of the reason why, we got to where we are now is because we didn't speak up and we weren't honest about what was going on. We tried to hide a lot of stuff and, we didn't hold a lot of things accountable. And, I think when I was writing the second season and as I was writing the second season and developing things and thinking about what I was going to do with certain characters this past year, something was always happening.
yeah,
Something was always happening, or um, the censorship was getting more and more extreme. And as that was going on, I was thinking to myself, do I still keep going with this? How are the actors going to feel? Are they going to feel safe doing this?
yeah.
Um, luckily, everyone is on board. Um, but again, that the power of honesty and truth is what we need to combat this and ultimately defeat this. There is, not to spoil too much, but in season two, there's a Marjorie Taylor Greene character who's the villain of season two. uh,
I'm all for that. I had a
yeah.
conversation. My wife was talking about her last night. She was in the news, and she's like, "Oh, this," and she how'd she pronounce her name? She called her Majori, and I laughed a little bit. I was like, "Yeah," I was like, "Is she a Bajoran?" But
Yeah.
she said something about her. I was like, I don't care about whatever she said unless it's like, condolences. And I was like, oh, like, it's like because I don't want to hear it. I'm sorry, but
Yeah. Um,
shift gears. Yes, you do
yes,
keep
please.
freezing a little bit every now and then, just in case
I
you were
do.
wondering. But
Okay.
but
Okay.
we're okay. We're okay.
Okay.
But it like it lasts for a split second, but then you come right back. Let's shift off of that. Let's shift off of the politics because I think we lost 7 viewers right there. Um, I will say this: after I had discovered you, funnily enough, I was doing my first ever watch of For All Mankind. I had never seen the show. and
Okay.
and it was constantly I'm being told, oh, you got to check it out, and I'm like, well, I don't have Apple TV. It's like I didn't have it. I was like, finally, I'm gonna go get it. I'm gonna watch this show. I got to check it out. I love Deep Space Nine. I am a Deep Space Nine guy,
I
and
that's
so
my yeah, that's my heart.
well, you can't really see it, but I'm willing to move my camera. Hold on. All right. If you look right here, my Cisco section. I have a Cisco plate.
You have a
I have,
collection of Cisco's?
huh?
I said you have a collection of Cisco's.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I have every Cisco. I'm
Is that Playmates? I see Playmates Cisco, I think.
Yeah, that's the first Playmates. I have a
Yeah.
custom skateboard from my first guest on the podcast. He made me a skateboard of Cisco. I have a copy of Far Beyond the Stars. I have his baseball stand with a baseball on it.
Hmm.
And then I have a Cisco Christmas ornament standing there. And I got Cisco Migo down here. He's drinking his Ractigino. So,
I am so excited for the new Cisco figure that's coming out from
Nacelle.
oh yeah, oh my God. Oh, I'm so excited. The wow, I'm forgetting the name of one of the best Deep Space Nine episodes.
Oh,
Um
Pale Moonlight in the Pale
I think
Moonlight.
that's the Pale Moonlight is like that. I'm so excited for that Cisco. Very
Yeah,
excited. Shout out
I
to
didn't
Nacelle.
really I didn't really talk to Brian about it. I had Brian on the show and we talked
Yeah.
stuff, but he had given a lot of information to the Crusher Convo. Shout out to Crusher Convo, and he had talked to her about it. So I didn't really want to step on toes. I didn't want to like have him repeat everything that he'd said to her
Yeah.
because I wanted people to go check her, check her show out, talk to her, like see what she posts. And but yeah, I mean, like he told me a few things. There's some stuff you're gonna love that I can't talk about, but there's some stuff. Um, I wish I could say more, but I don't wanna betray trust. Yeah, Nacelle. It's a really good segue. You, good sir, posted this in your story, which I have screenshot since the day these figures were announced. And you said, and I quote, "This version of Kirk means more to me than people will ever understand, and I'm so glad it's being made. And I have been wanting to talk to you since that very moment to find out why. What is that story behind that Kirk for this cell figure?"
What is the story behind the Generations Kirk? Whew, already. Oh, okay. So, uh, Star Trek Generations was, I want to say, the first or second movie that I saw in movie theaters. I think before that, it was Muppet Christmas Carol.
Well, that's
Um,
kind of Star Trek adjacent.
but it is very Star Trek adjacent, and to me, one of the best, if not the best, Christmas Carol version that's ever been put out. I love the Muppet Christmas Carol. Um, anyway, so I remember going to see Star Trek Generations with my dad took me to see Star Trek Generations, and I think for him, he was just excited to take his son to his first Star Trek movie. Um, and there were so many things that came up when I was watching that movie. The production value, you go from seeing the Next Generation series, which, for that
Yeah,
time period was always already pretty, pretty well done. Um, but you get to see a film version of the Enterprise D bridge. You get to see it on this large scale. You get to see, I mean, they didn't get to use the uniforms they wanted, but you get to see I mean, there's always dramatic storytelling in the Next Generation, but the theme of this Next Generation story was so much more about taking your time and uh, realizing that there's sometimes we don't have as much time as we think we have. Um, and when we get to Captain Kirk, we have this passing of the torch storyline, and I didn't even understand that's what was happening in the movie. For me, being well, how old was it? 94. I was probably about 5 or 6. For me, at that point, it was another adventure, and it just happened to feature, Captain Kirk and the Next Generation crew, and it was this crossover. All right, we're gonna do the thing, um, and then at the end of the movie credits roll and he's gone.
yeah.
And for me, it was the first time that I was exposed to the concept of death.
Mm.
Um, I I think here and there, growing up in that short 5 year period, people had probably passed on in my life, but the concept didn't quite hit, and I don't think that it was quite anyone that was close to me and family. And Kirk at that point, was the closest thing to a close family member at that point, besides my own close family members. He was the only closest family member to me at that point that had passed. Um, and so, yeah, I I had to I had to accept it. It took me until I was 12 years old to watch Generations again
Wow.
because it was just too painful to watch.
That is
Uh,
that's wow. That's a long
yeah,
time.
yeah, it was a while. I remember because back at that point we still had VHS tapes, and then like we transitioned to DVDs. But I would see that VHS tape, on my dad's shelf, and I would just like go right past it because I'm like, no, I can't handle it. I can't handle it. I can't handle it. My dad, he always says, I remember us getting back on the train after seeing the movie, and I was just so excited to, show you your first Star Trek movie, and I was saying to you, Matt, what did you think? What did you think? And he said, you were sobbing on the train. You were inconsolable. And I felt so bad.
Well, it's a good story and a good reason to have that figure. It's a good emotional connection to that figure. I like that. Um, Two things I thought about. I think about when you mentioned the VHS of Generations. I remember when it came out. I remember watching it in theaters, and I remember seeing the bathlet in Kirk's home
Yeah.
and being confused. Why does he have a bathlet? It doesn't make any sense to me. Not thinking about it being a trophy of someone he's killed, and I didn't think of it. But I remember when the VHS came out, there was no widescreen. It was 4:3 aspect ratio, and I remember watching it and not seeing it because it was cut off. And I thought, okay, did I imagine it? But
Mm.
it wasn't until years later when I saw an actual full screen, widescreen copy and went, there it is. But I talked about For All Mankind and I jumped over that because we got in DS9 and
Yeah.
Cisco, which we're all over the board here, but that's okay. Yeah, I was in the midst of, like I said, watching that show for the first time, and I think it was season 4, and you come walking down a hallway, and I went, wait a minute. I was like, wait a minute. It's like, I know that face. So I just,
Yeah.
how does that feel? Because I'm sorry, in my mind, that's a prequel to Star Trek. You
I've
know?
heard. So here's the journey with For All Mankind is kind of wild. So I want to say about a year before I got that bit part. Um, I was I want to say auditioning for a job. It was a job interview for a theater, but everything's always an audition. So I had a job interview for a theater, and uh, the my soon-to-be supervisor was a sci-fi fan, and we just started talking about science fiction and Star Trek, and Deep Space Nine came up, and he said, "Well, if you like Deep Space Nine, you got to watch For All Mankind." And I'd never heard of the show, and I
Wow.
said, "For All Mankind, what's that?" He said, "Oh, well, it's about this, and it's about this alternate history of blah blah blah." And I was like, "Oh, that's interesting." Um, and his brother wrote for the show. Um, and that's kind of as far as it went. My manager at the time, I want to say about a year later, said, "Hey, we got this audition for you for the show called For All Mankind." And I said, "I've heard of this show before. What? Okay, great. Obviously,
Yeah.
like I
Oh, yeah.
I knew I'm freezing again. Oh, there
No,
we
it's
go.
okay. It lasts like about 3 seconds and then you're back.
Okay. I knew the concept of the show. It took place in space. I'm on board. Let's do the audition. It was a line of technobabble that I had to say. And obviously, if you're growing up watching Star Trek, you're practicing that you're practicing that jargon and you're saying those lines all the time. So it was more or less a no-brainer to get the line down. Long story short, my manager at that time that called me said, "Hey, you booked the role in For All Mankind. I was like, oh, that's awesome, that's great. Um, and then my dad, I told my dad about it. He's like, oh, I love that show. It's my favorite show. I was like, everybody's on about this show. Um, and I started doing more reading about it. I think I watched the first episode and I started reading up on it. And then I started reading the fan theories that came out that this was the progression to how we get to the Federation, how we get to Starfleet. Um, and I mean, after watching more of the show, I get it now.
Yeah.
Um, Now on the day of filming, I so they had the line of technobabble that they had given me in the audition. That was for, I want to say, a good 20 minutes. That was the set line. They changed it about three different times in
Mm.
about a half hour. They changed about three times in a half hour. And, again, technobabble is great if you're able to run it and run it and run it. And if it's the same technobabble that you've been practicing for the last, now if they're going to change it up three times in a half hour and it's technobabble, it's not something simple like I'm going to the store or
Yeah.
now I'm getting to the store. It's, oh God, I can't even remember the line now, but they just switched it up. And or the second time they switched it up, it was okay because we still had about a half hour before we filmed it. I was like, oh, that's fine, cool. I'll learn it. And then we had already done some takes, and then they said we're gonna change it again. And then they said it's gonna be this. And I was like, okay, can you repeat it right now? I was like, okay.
Wow.
It took me a couple of times to repeat it, and the thing is, like, the director's right there with you, like watching you, making sure that you're getting it right before you do the take. Maybe rightfully so. Um, so there was a little bit of nervousness there. For me, the thing that had me on edge the most was that Denise and Michael Okuda were there as well, and Denise and
Oh,
Michael, they were there.
that blew my
Um,
mind.
and that I because they were masked up because this was 2022. This is I want to say summer of 2022. So we're still in that early post. I mean, COVID is still happening,
Yeah, I was
but
gonna say I was at a hospital yesterday with a mask on, so it's
yeah,
still normalcy.
it's still normalcy. It's still happening. But they had their masks on. Denise and Michael could have had their masks on, but I knew from the books and from the documentaries and everything that I watch, I knew those faces. I knew those people. And so I freaked out like before we filmed. I said, "Hi, you guys have no idea who I am, but I know who you are and I love what you do and blah blah blah." And initially they're like, oh well, thank you. It's nice to meet you."
Yeah,
Um
and I would do the exact same thing. I would have been
I
just like that.
that for me, when it came to saying the line and wanting to get the line right, I wanted to get it right for them.
Oh,
I was thinking about them the whole time. I should have been thinking about the director and whoever else is on set and making sure I don't get fired and whatever else. But for me, I was like, I have to get it right for them. For me, that was mom and pop at that moment in time in my head. I'm like, I got to do it right for mom and pop. I got to do it right for Mike and Denise
I
Okuda.
love it. And I would have
Um,
done the same thing.
yeah.
There, I can't like I might have so many books that say Michael and Denise Okuda on them, and they're such an internal part of everything. So yeah, that's
Yes.
wonderful. I want to touch base on your Star Trek story. You talked about going to see Generations with your father. Was
Yeah.
that your first exposure to Star Trek?
No, no. My first exposure to Star Trek was thanks to my mom. I always mess up the age, but it was, I want to say, about four. Uh, and I had a rocking chair, and funny enough, it was a rainbow rocking chair.
Okay.
Like foreshadowing, which my mom had told me later on. She said, "Yeah, it was a rainbow rocking chair, and I never thought of it." Um, but I was in my rocking chair. I was holding my Grover doll, and she just put Star Trek on, and I don't know what episode it was. I think it was an original series episode. But I was sold after that, and she said after that that was it. My dad very much a sci-fi. a sci-fi Blerd fan. Dad nurtured it, obviously continues to nurture continues to nurture it. My mother continues to nurture it. Um, I remember one of the other early Star Trek memories I remember right before watching Generations was the trailer for the finale
Oh,
of Star Trek: The Next Generation, and I just remember uh, that uh, the oh god the voice that speaks during the trailer. The wow,
oh, yeah. And it was always the same voice for every week.
yeah,
On the next. It's like,
yes,
no,
yes.
yeah.
And I just remember that on the finale of Star Trek: The Next Generation. And I'm just thinking, the finale, oh, what's happening? And so that's like one of the other early memories is I remember watching the Next Generation finale. And so that lines up with, going to see the Generations movie after that. But yeah, I say again, that particular figurine, that particular movie, it was my first exposure to death. Uh the the grace that Captain Kirk goes out with as well was something for me. And I know fans, I know the way he goes out, with the bridge on top. Um, I understand the frustration and the anger. And I will say, as a child, from that viewpoint, seeing this character uh take on godlike figures and take on alien species and speak his way out of a situation, fight his way out of a situation. He doesn't believe in no-win scenarios. He, as he says, he cheats death. Um, to know those things about this character and be exposed to those things about this character up until this point in time, uh, and when death comes for him, he dies in a very simple way. um, there was something very humanizing about it for me.
The one thing that always resonated with me on his death, I had never had a problem with how it happened.
Yeah.
Nor did I ever even think about the bridge on the captain aspect until probably the last 2 years. But I've always quoted "It was fun." Anytime it says, "What's your final words?" It was fun. That's always going to be my
Ah,
final words. But the one thing
yeah.
that resonated with me was in Star Trek V when he's falling off of El Capitan, and he knew he wasn't going to die because he wasn't alone.
No.
And
Yeah.
then when he dies, he's alone. I mean, Picard's there,
Yeah,
but he didn't
Picard.
have his brothers.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and I always thought, oh man. I mean, I don't know if it was intentional, but it's good poetry.
Yeah.
Um, I know a lot of people are Kirk people. I'm a Cisco. I like people say, "Who's your
Oh,
favorite captain?"
yeah.
I'm a Cisco guy. Um,
I mean,
I
I'm absolutely a Cisco guy too. I think for that moment in time, Kirk, uh, especially growing up in that point in time, being picked on and all that stuff, there was that Kirk bravado that I was exposed to that I think I needed and gave me a little bit of something when I would go out into the world. Obviously, my parents gave me all that they could to make sure that I kept my head up and my chest up and uh but in my mind as well, that young state with the figures that I'd been exposed to on television, um I just said I'm gonna walk like Kirk today in my head. I'm gonna walk like Kirk. I'm gonna have that kind of bravado and confidence. Um, and I did the best that I could at that age to make sure that I held on to that when I was on the playground.
I love that. I do. That's kind of the same thing. I think when I was growing up, I had Han Solo.
Yeah.
I was the Han Solo kid. It's like, who wants to be a Jedi? No, no, no. I'm the smuggler. You know.
Yeah.
Now, when it came to Cisco, it was always the father son aspect. He and Jake, for me, that was like I had my father, I had my stepfather, but Cisco was always the dad I wanted. Like I would watch that and I'd say that was the relationship that I would have wanted to have with my father. And I was never envious of Jake. I just wanted to be his brother. Um, so and so I enjoyed watching that, and I always became a Cisco guy. And then the way he led, and he took no shit, and it was like that was it, and that's the way it's been. It's like, look, I can be compassionate, I can be calm, I can be rational, but I'm not going to take any shit, and I'm going to be a
Yeah.
leader. And that's what I wanted. And then Avery Brooks himself, my God. I mean, like learning about his writing and his music and, everything else and learning about the man, I was like, he was that character in
Yes,
so
he
many
was.
ways.
Absolutely. Um, and as I get older now, Cisco is my favorite captain because of those qualities that you mentioned. Um, he has this, to me, perfect balance of knowing when to cut through the crap and get to the core of whatever it is. And then he has those other moments where he embraces joy. And one of my favorite moments with Cisco is when he is speaking to Worf, and I can't remember if it's Worf's trial episode.
Okay.
Um, in oh God, I can't remember the name of the episode, but it's in season 4 where Worf is on trial for destroying that ship full uh
Children and
of
families,
children.
it
Yeah,
wasn't. Yeah, I remember.
yeah. Um, and the at the end of the episode, the crew is smiling or laughing. No, no, no. Cisco is speaking to Worf, and he's having a heart to heart after the trial, and says, "Okay, like you're off the hook now, but you should have checked for this. You should have checked for this. You should have checked for this." And he
Yeah.
said, "Okay, now that that's out of the way, it's time to go to a party." And Worf's like, I don't want to go." And then Cisco says, "Part of being a good captain is knowing when to smile." And I never forgot that. I never
That's a good
forgot
one. You
that.
have to show resolve even when you're down.
Yeah, yeah. Or embrace the joy. Acknowledge the pain, but embrace joy as well. That's also how we through life, that's also how we move forward. That's how we resist as well in these times is our joy, as cliche as it sounds. One of my favorite, because I listen to gospel music sometimes as well, and I really started listening to the lyrics of the song one day, and um, I don't know if it's a Bible verse, because I'm not well versed in the Bible, but the lyrics were "No joy, no strength,"
Okay.
and I was like, "No joy, no strength." No, oh, no joy, no. So if you don't embrace the joy, then how do you have the gusto to move on? No joy, no strength. Okay. Um, and so along with Cisco, uh, Resistance, um, Kirk, even at the very end, where he's talking about his life and he says it was fun, you know, I think no joy, no strength, you know.
A hell of a way of looking at it. I like that. For me, I was inspired to expand my knowledge base based on Star Trek characters. Like, as an example, with Cisco and his battle with Eddington. People, who's your favorite
Yeah.
enemy? I'll say Eddington. It inspired me to read Les Miserables. I wanted to know more
Hmm.
about Javert. I wanted to know that. And as a, man, I would have been 16 or 17 at the time, that was something I wanted to know. And it's a good jumping off point. Star Trek can be educational. It's not, pew pew all the time. So,
Right, right.
but unfortunately, it comes back down to what you say in your story. People prejudge and they misjudge because you're wearing, an emblem on your chest and a colorful shirt. They assume you're a nerd or a geek or whatever, and that's a
Mhm.
badge of honor. But it's also me, I've always felt being a Trekkie is a gateway of understanding and IDIC, infinite diversities and infinite combinations. It's like anytime it's a welcoming of everybody, and that's the way I think life should be. It's a that's just my opinion.
It's definitely it is a way it's a way of life. Um, I consider Star Trek a way of life, a call to action. Um, I look at the message overall when you strip away the details. Uh, for me, Star Trek has always been about love. Um, and I think, I mean, love is obviously universal. Love is a powerful message. Um, and the influence of that, the influence of Trek is, it is, I think it's so underrated and it influences people that really can bring about change on any level. Uh, I mean, not to get back into the political side of it, but when I look at political figures that have made a difference, that have made an impact on this world, on this country, um, AOC, AOC, Jane, she watched Janeway growing up.
Yeah,
Um, and I think during the heat of COVID in 2020, she said, "Look, if you want to talk about Tuvix, let's talk about it." And she was on, I guess, Twitter at that time, on Twitter saying, "I'll debate you about Tuvix. Let's go."
yeah.
Um, AOC, uh,
Barack,
the huh? Oh,
Barack.
Yes, Barack
Yeah,
Obama. Um, the mayor of Long Beach. I want to say Robert Garcia.
I
But
don't know.
now he's one of the the bigger names in politics now. Um, but he is also a Star Trek fan. I was on his Instagram, and I think it was either him or his husband got him an Enterprise D cake for his birthday.
Oh,
And I saw him as well at Star Trek Day in 2021. And I was so excited. I'm like, "Are you the mayor of Long Beach?" And he was like, yes." I was so excited to see him. But him, Stacey Abrams.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Stacey Abrams, who was able to pull out this great
President of Earth. The
Yes,
president of
and
Earth.
now the president of Earth. It's canon. Um, Hakeem Jeffries as well, right? Hakeem Jeffries,
I
I
don't know.
believe.
I didn't know any Star Trek
Um,
connection.
I think it was Hakeem Jeffries. That's a Trekkie as well.
Oh,
Or
and
no, or is it?
oh, oh, I know there's another one.
Or maybe it was Cory Booker.
Cory Booker. Yes,
Cory Booker,
because
not
Cory
Hakeem
Booker
Jeffries.
has a Cisco figure on his
Yeah.
shelf. You can see all the. Yeah.
So it's just these people are in these positions of power, positions of influence, and Star Trek is part of their core. So uh it's always a wonder to me that Star Trek has never been, and not to jinx anything, that Star Trek has never been in Trump's crosshairs.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't think he's intelligent enough to to get
No.
it. I don't
No.
think that.
According to him today, nobody understands how magnets work. So
Yeah. So I'm not that because I don't think anybody on Trump's team would understand Star Trek. So I think we're safe. Um, but I say all that to say that the power, the influence that Trek has, and that the Trek-E has is pretty amazing. And I think that we shouldn't underestimate that in these times. We're beautiful people, and
oh yeah.
we can bring about some change, you know.
I think, like you said at the beginning, with unity we can accomplish everything.
Yeah.
As long as we stay together and the other thing is I have people in my life that I love dearly, but they don't see the same way I do politically, and it's it's saddening. I know it's sad for them because they think that I'm in the wrong,
Yeah.
you know. But the best I can do is just kind of take the teachings of what I've learned from Star Trek and as embrace them, hope for the best, and hopefully show them through my actions how things can be better. And
Yeah.
if enough people can change their actions, maybe we can make this world better.
Yeah.
Um, I don't
It's
know.
there is a pain that comes with people being on the other side of this. Um, especially if you've grown up together,
Yeah.
especially with their family. You know, there's a pain of this extreme now, especially this extreme that we're seeing now. Uh, of For me, you know, it was having to let people go. I had to do that for myself because at a certain point it was just too painful to hold on to certain people. And there, you know, being fully transparent, there was anger that that came with that, but it was more honesty, being honest with myself, saying that I have to move on. And
Yeah.
that's even something that's touched on in one of the episodes in the second season of the show that I've written. You see a flashback episode with the characters of me and my friend Emerson and my friend Bones, and you find out that there was a fourth person that was responsible for bringing them all together.
Oh, really?
Um, and you see these guys go from being, you know, elementary school kids to more or less adults.
Yeah.
And you see the strength of the friendships, the bonds growing, how each person bonded, how they all came together. And meanwhile, you also see the hints of MAGA that have seeped through over the years, and you just see it and you see it and you see it until at one point it becomes full blown, and one by one the friends slowly break away. um and that is I mean, again, you know, it's for some people you have to move on, and you have to let go, you have to not engage in the arguments anymore because there's, you know, they're not going to go anywhere. You know, you have to preserve your peace at some point. And, you know, like you said, you understand that you're not going to change their mind, at least at this juncture.
Yeah.
Um, being as well, just being is sometimes the most powerful thing that you can do is just to sit there and be and continue to be and let them watch. And if they learn something from watching, great. If not, then you know that's an acceptance that you have to have. But ultimately, there's an energy that you have to stop giving so you can survive and you can live, you know? And it's painful sometimes.
To touch on what we had said earlier about how your 1701 a blurred story is very universal. What you're talking about, your aspects for season two and the core group of people and splitting apart because of the MAGA slipping in is universal as well. I myself have three really good friends I've known 30 plus years,
Yeah, yeah,
and I no longer speak to them. They are no longer part. I had to break away from
yeah.
that group because yes, growing up they were my brothers,
Yes,
but
yes, exactly, exactly.
something changed.
Something
And
changed.
yeah, and so I feel that. I
Yeah.
feel that. I also feel I don't know. I feel that. I really do. I did that hits and that resonates, and I look forward to that story. I really do.
I'm looking forward to telling that story too. And I think um in my personal experiences with that situation, those situations, um because when I look back and I think back sometimes there was a little pain in thinking about the way that things were. I'm wondering how did it end like this?
Yeah.
But not to sound cliche, but people do come into your lives for a season sometimes. And the, the past moments that you've had, the stories, the character building that you've had, all of those things are so necessary and were necessary for you all to be, to be there for each other in that moment in time.
I want to read something to you because you're saying something that hits right here, and
Yeah.
I want to read this to you because uh, you, damn, like no one else in my entire life has ever said anything like what I have said before. I've never heard anyone describe what you're saying like I have. And I'm going to let all these people text me as I turn my phone back on for a second. But a second, because everyone, yeah, hi, how you doing? Um, it was I look at life as a TV show. I always have, and
Mhm.
that's really weird. And I have this written. I know you can't read it, but I want to read this to you. Okay.
Yeah.
I like to think of life as one big television show, full of interweaving storylines and characters. Sometimes people are written out, be it their stories were no longer holding the audience's attention, or they're killed off and thus we are given an emotional storyline. Not
Mm.
every episode and or day is a great one, but each one is an instant classic that can never be repeated. And now I begin the new season of my show. It was when I was turning 43, um, my 43rd season. And I'm really hoping that in this season, I get an all musical episode. So,
I love it. I
and
love it.
so I've always looked at like friends like that, and it's like Facebook too. Like Facebook is a job. Like I have the Facebook, I don't use it, but it's keeping track of family or friends or whatever. And so like I'd always tell people like, oh, if you unfriend me, that's you quit the job. Why would I rehire you again? And I look at life like that too. It's a season, and these are characters, and
Yeah.
and oh, they've been written out. That's a shame. But remember when they were on the show?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah,
That's
and
exactly it.
so if I could, I would have reached out and hugged you because that made me so excited when you said that. I love the way you look at that, and that's wonderful. This entire conversation has been wonderful.
Yes,
I honestly,
absolutely.
I love it. I don't really want it to end, but I know that our time is coming close to an end. So I want to give it a natural ending. And I want to say thank you. Thank you so very much for coming on here and speaking with me. Um, and would you like to tell anyone where to find you? And the floor is yours, sir.
Okay. Where can you find me? You can find me on Instagram. I'm still there. I was taking a social media break for my mental health, but I'm still there. I check my messages. You can find me on Instagram at 1701 BLERD. That's the Instagram for the web series. There's my personal Instagram as well, which is MLJENN. That's the handle for that. I also have both of those handles for Blue Sky as well, the MLGen for Blue Sky and the 1701 BLERD for Blue Sky. I have both of those for Threads. And I also have the 1701 BLERD for TikTok as well. So in any of those ways, slide in my DMs, say hi. Please keep an eye out for the second season of the show. I'm going to start fundraising very soon. I've been having meetings about, figuring out how we're going to get this thing off the ground. Um, but stay tuned. Ideally, we'll be filming in March of next year. Um, and yeah, thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
that's wonderful. All the links will be below for anyone, and please go give Matt a follow. Uh, check out everything. Please watch a 1701, A Blerd Story. It's magnificent.
Thank you.
Looking forward to season two and everything else. In your story, when you say in the 1701 A Blerd Story, you say when you first meet someone, you say, this is the first thing you do.
Yeah.
And I'm going to end it with this, and I'm going to say, live long and prosper. Thank you for your
Oh
time,
my.
and I look forward to the second season.
Thank you. It was such a pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
You're welcome.